Did you know that Canada is so massive that it spans 6 time zones and contains more lakes than the rest of the world combined? But here is the kicker: this incredible nation didn't even exist as we know it just 157 years ago. From ancient indigenous civilizations to becoming a global powerhouse, Canada's story is packed with epic battles, surprising alliances, and moments that literally shaped the world. So grab your maple syrup and let's dive into 15,000 years of Canadian history in exactly 10 minutes. Long before any Europeans set foot on North American soil, this land was already home to thriving civilizations. For over 15,000 years, hundreds of indigenous nations from the Inuit in the Arctic to the Haudenosaunee in the Great Lakes region had built sophisticated societies, trade networks, and governance systems. These weren't primitive tribes waiting to be discovered. They were advanced cultures with rich traditions that had flourished for millennia. But everything was about to change when wooden ships appeared on the horizon. In 1497, John Cabot became the first documented European to reach what we now call Canada, claiming Newfoundland for England. But the real game-changer came in 1534 when French explorer Jacques Cartier sailed up the St. Lawrence River and planted a flag, declaring the land for France. What followed was a rush of European explorers, fur traders, and missionaries who saw this vast wilderness as the ultimate frontier. The Europeans brought new technologies and trade opportunities, but also diseases that devastated indigenous populations. And this is where things get really interesting because two European superpowers were about to clash. Picture this: France and Britain, already bitter enemies in Europe, suddenly find themselves staring at each other across the forests of North America. New France, centered around Quebec, became a thriving colony built on fur trading and Catholic missions. Meanwhile, British colonies were expanding northward, hungry for land and resources. For over 150 years, these two colonial giants played an epic game of chess using indigenous alliances and military outposts. The 7 Years' War changed everything. In 1759, British forces led by General Wolfe defeated the French on the Plains of Abraham outside Quebec City. Both commanders died in the battle, making it one of history's most dramatic victories. With the Treaty of Paris in 1763, France handed over New France to Britain. But here's the twist: Britain actually treated the French colonists pretty well. The Quebec Act of 1774 let French Canadians keep their language, religion, and laws. Smart move, because when the American Revolution broke out, guess who stayed loyal to Britain? But creating a unified nation from these diverse colonies, that would take something truly revolutionary. July 1st, 1867, the day four colonies said, "Let's do this together." Ontario, Quebec, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick united to form the Dominion of Canada through the British North America Act. Here is what makes this amazing. Canada became the world's first country to achieve independence through paperwork instead of warfare. No bloody revolution, no dramatic declarations, just smart politicians sitting around conference tables, hammering out the details of a new nation. Now they had a country, but it was basically just a strip along the US border. Time to think bigger. Canada's leaders had a bold vision: a nation from sea to sea to sea. In 1869, They bought Rupert Ease land from the Hudson East Bay Company. Imagine buying an area larger than India for the equivalent of about $7 million today. But the real game changer was the Canadian Pacific Railway, completed in 1885. This engineering marvel connected the Atlantic and Pacific coasts and literally held the country together. Without it, there might be no Canada as we know it. Then came the ultimate test of this young nation's character. World War I transformed Canada from a quiet British dominion into a respected world power. At Vimy Ridge in 1917, Canadian forces achieved what British and French armies couldn't. They captured this strategic German stronghold, fighting together as Canadians for the first time. Over 600,000 Canadians served, and their sacrifice earned the nation its own signature on the Treaty of Versailles. World War II showcased Canadian strengths even more. From the beaches of Normandy to the liberation of the Netherlands, Canadian forces punched way above their weight. Victory brought new responsibilities and opportunities on the world stage. The post-war boom years saw Canada come into its own. In 1965, the country finally got its iconic red and white maple leaf flag, replacing the British Union Jack. But the real milestone came in 1982 when Pierre Trudeau patriated the Constitution, bringing it home from Britain and adding the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, universal health care, official bilingualism, and multiculturalism became pillars of Canadian identity. But there was one crucial conversation Canada needed to have with itself. For too long, government policies had tried to erase Indigenous cultures through residential schools and forced assimilation. The last residential school didn't close until 1996. Let that sink in. But change was coming. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission exposed the painful legacy of residential schools, and Indigenous voices began reclaiming their rightful place in Canadian society. It's an ongoing journey toward justice and healing. Today's Canada reflects this complex but hopeful evolution. Modern Canada is simultaneously one of the world's most resource-rich countries and a leader in technology and innovation. From Alberta's oil sands to Silicon Valley north in Toronto and Vancouver, Canada has built a diverse economy that punches above its weight globally. Culturally, Canadian artists, musicians, and writers dominate international stages. Think Drake, Ryan Reynolds, Margaret Atwood, and countless others. As a middle power, Canada plays peacekeeper and bridge builder on the world stage. But wait, we haven't even covered the weirdest parts yet. Here is some mind-blowing Canadian trivia. Canada once had a prime minister who talked to his dead dog for political advice. Seriously, William Lyon Mackenzie King held SANCs in the PM's residence. The country has more than half of the world's natural lakes. Oh, and that time in 1969 when UFO landing pads were officially built in Alberta? Yeah, that actually happened. Plus, Canada is the only country to have won Olympic gold in hockey on home soil twice. From Indigenous nations thriving for millennia to becoming a modern global leader, Canada's journey is one of the most remarkable nation-building stories in human history. It's a country that chose cooperation over conquest, diversity over uniformity, and maple syrup over everything else. In exactly 10 minutes, we've traveled through 15,000 years of wars, alliances, discoveries, and transformations that shaped not just a nation, but a unique way of seeing the world. If you enjoyed this lightning-fast journey through Canadian history, smash that like button and subscribe to Mini History for more incredible stories from around the globe. What country should we explore next? Drop your suggestions in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Thanks for watching.